Page 25, monkey sees, monkey does, legato thirds. We'll talk about this in a bit, but I want to talk about page 24. You get a quiz on page 24. Now, if you haven't done it yet and you want to do it, you need to stop this video because I'm about to go through it and give you all the answers. So it's better if you can go through this on your own and try and get those answers. You don't have to write them in the book if you don't want to. Take a separate piece of paper or something and write them down over there. Number 1, number 2, and the answer. And then once you've done that, come back to the video and we'll go over it together. Because it's important that you know this stuff. It really is. You got to know this stuff. So, number 1. In 3/4 time, this note, and it's a quarter note, gets how many counts? Well, we already tells you the bottom note and the time signature tells you what you're counting. And a 4 means quarter. So a quarter note gets 1 count. Number 2, in 6/8 time, this note, it's a quarter note, gets how many counts? Well, the bottom note's the note you're counting, so it's an 8. So you're counting eighth notes. A quarter note is worth 2 eighth notes, therefore a quarter note's going to get 2 counts. Number 3, in 4/4 time, this note, that's a half note, gets how many counts? Well, you're counting quarter notes, that's what the bottom 4 is. A half note is worth 2 quarter notes, therefore a half note is going to get 2 counts in 4/4 time. This symbol, got a little sideways arrow, is called a what kind of mark? And it's called an accent mark. Draw a quarter note. Well, the first 2 questions, it's a quarter note, so draw one of those. Draw a note that would get 2 counts in 4/4 time. Well, that's the answer to number 3. It's a half note. They're repeating themselves, sort of. I like these kinds of quizzes. Number 7. If there is 1 sharp in the key signature, that sharp is, because they're always in the same order, the first sharp is always an F sharp. An F sharp. Put a sharp on the second space. Well, they're telling you to draw it in. See, I have a problem with the second space and third line and fourth line, whatever, because I don't know if I'm counting up or counting down. It makes a difference. If they want a sharp on the second space and you're counting up, if you can see this, that note is on the first space. That note would be on the second space, so you draw a sharp on that space. Don't know why you'd want a sharp on that space, but okay, that's it. It doesn't matter. They're not talking about clefs. They don't care what clef it is. It's just the second space of the staff, so you can cover that part up, and all you're interested in is that. Number 9. The boy musician who attracted a great deal of attention among royalty was, well, there was more than one, but there's only one I think they've covered in the book, and that was Mozart. Number 10, put a flat on the third line. Well, here we go again. Well, in this case, the third line happens to be the middle line. It doesn't matter if you're counting up or down. It's the middle line, cover up these, is that middle where that note is. But you'd have to draw a flat there, so you got to know what a flat sign looks like. So if you don't know what a flat sign looks like, go look it up, and you'll find out. Number 11, this symbol, and that's an upward arrow, a little caret, in music tells us to, it actually tells us to play it with a big accent. It's called a marcato. It's a serious note. So, yeah. You would also probably tend to separate the notes a little bit, but we'll get into that later. That's an interpretive thing, but give it extra oomph. Number 12, the musician who wrote many hundreds of songs was, did they cover it in the book? They must have covered it in the book somewhere. It was Schubert, Franz Schubert. He didn't live all that long. He only lived to be 31 years old, but he wrote he was very productive in his composing. He wrote lots of songs and a whole bunch of other stuff. This symbol, it's a little half circle with a dot, is called technically it's called a fermata. We also call it a hold. Call it what you want, I guess, but that's what it is. 14. One piece that I played that is a folk tune is, then you have to fill that in. Just go back through the book and look for the ones That where it says folk tune, there's a bunch of them, and that's what you played, you fill that in. I can't answer that for you. This wrist, and that's a little squiggly thing, gets how many counts? 4/4 time. Well, the bottom note is what you're counting, and that stands for quarter note. That rest is a quarter rest, therefore the rest is going to get 1 count. Number 16. Draw the note that gets the same time value as this rest. That's a quarter rest. We already talked about that. So all you got to do is draw a quarter note. If you know what one looks like, well, the first 2 questions on the test were quarter notes, so they're showing you what they look like. Number 17, draw the rest that gets the same time value as this note. And that note is an 8th note. Therefore, you got to draw an 8th rest. Number 18, the composer who is often called the father of music is, so it's called Bach, J.S. Bach, B-A-C-H. Number 19, when I see PP in music, I will play. The answer is very softly, pianissimo. Number 20, waltzes are written in what time signature? And the answer is 3/4 time. We'll talk about the right hand. There's not a lot to talk about. They're saying legato thirds. You see it right under the title, legato thirds. Well, legato means connected. Thirds means you're playing an interval of a third. Have you had thirds yet? I don't know if you have or not. But a third is easy to recognize in the music because it would be on 2 adjacent lines or 2 adjacent spaces. That is next to each other. So just look in the first line, the first measure. There in the left hand, you have a C and an E, these notes. They're on 2 spaces next to each other. That's a third. Any notes like that are a third. All of these are thirds. Everything in this piece are thirds, all these chords. And piano, they're 1 note apart. It's the legato part, because then you're fingering, and the fingers don't want to do this at first, but it's important that you get it, so work on this. You're going to put your hand in C position, both hands, to start. They're going to move around. Let's just deal with the first 2 measures. C position. And then the first measure, you're going to go 5/3, and then connect the notes, and then again. So and the idea is to try and get the notes down at the same time. You have to listen very carefully. Then in the right hand, second measure. That feels really awkward. It took me quite a while to get that, but I finally got it. So you may have to practice that a little bit. It doesn't hurt to go up and down slowly. You can do both hands at once. If that's awkward for you, then mirror the hands. So just start with the 3 and 1 on each hand. You can go real slow until you've got it. Just here, and then when you get ready and you think you got it, go here, and then the next one, when you got it, you think so, go here. And you just, over time, it'll get a little less difficult for you. And that's what this piece is about. It's kind of like an etude or a steady piece in legato third. We just have to deal with moving the hands around once we get that, because your first 2 measures, you're in C position. And then in the 3rd and 4th measure, the first line, you're up here in F position. So I just played both measures together, the 3rd and 4th measure at the same time. Second line, you're up in G position. And then the 3rd measure of the 2nd line, your left hand is here, you're up here in C position. Then, 3rd line down, you're back down here. 4th line, and last 2 measures. You're going to move your hands. Fortunately, you're just playing one hand at a time, so while one hand is playing, the other hand can move where it's got to go. And that's how it works, because you can't mess up the beat. They're introducing repeat sign. The repeat sign is simply a thin and thick bar and 2 dots. You see them in the last 2 lines of this piece. The repeat sign at the beginning of the 3rd line we call a reverse repeat sign because it's backwards. It's pointing the other direction. Repeat signs normally look like the sign at the end of the piece. They're on the last line at the very end. That's a repeat sign. And a repeat sign means hold on to your socks. No, it doesn't mean hold on to your socks, but it means go back to the reverse repeat sign and play that part again, all of it. If there is no reverse repeat sign, then you go back to the beginning of the piece and play it all again. So in this case, we're going to play the last 2 lines twice. Now, if the reverse repeat sign were not at the beginning of the 3rd line, if there was nothing there for it, then when we got down to the bottom at that repeat sign, we'd have to go back to the beginning and play the whole thing again. And that's how repeat signs work. That's about all I have to say. Let's try this out slowly, because I know this is going to be a challenge for you. If you can connect the notes and play at the same time in the chords. So we're starting out in C position. Here we go. 4 counts because it's a 4/4 time. 1, 2, ready, go. 3, 4, 3, 4, 4, 4, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4, rest, 2, 3, repeat, 4, 4, 4, 4, rest, 2, 3, 4, off.